I'm Dr. Viviana Coles. I am a doctor of marriage and family therapy, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and a certified sex therapist. I am going to be drinking some wine and discussing Netflix's season 1 of Emily in Paris. Join me. So the details aren't all that important, and of course you need to be watching the show so you understand all the context, but what I'm noticing is that there are definitely two sides to this dilemma that just came up on screen for Emily's boyfriend. First of all, she just showed up and told him not that she had been offered a job, but that she had accepted a job offer in Paris for a year. Now, I don't care who you are, but when you're dating somebody and it seems like they were more than just like a month into this, I don't think anybody would want to just be told, hey, this is what's going on. I'm moving across the country or I'm doing whatever drastic change without at least discussing it, like the advantages, the disadvantages, or why you think you want to take it. Now, I don't know if they made her make the decision right then and there. It doesn't seem like it. But the way she presented it was like, hey, by the way, this is what's going on. It's going to be great. Now, most people would freak out. So on his side, I can only imagine that he's thinking, well, really? You took a job across the world and didn't even think to talk to me about it or discuss? Not so much that she needs to get permission, but that it's going to affect them and their relationship. So there was no talking about, hey, how will we do this? She had already come up with this plan she's anal like I am, I guess. So she decided to just create a spreadsheet and this is what's going to happen and you can come and visit and this is how our long distance relationship is going to work. But she'd already taken it at this point. She'd taken the job, which I just think there should have been at least a discussion, even if it's a faux discussion, even if it's hey, I have to take this. So let's figure this out. But that's not the way it came across. I would suggest that she should have come back, talk to her boyfriend about it at home, and said hey, by the way, this is something that's on the table. I really would like to take it, and this is why. What do you think, and how do you think it'll affect us? That's how I think she should have done it. I'm a relationship therapist, which means that I don't only work with romantic relationships, I work with relationship systems of all sorts. Now, coworkers are very tricky because Emily is going into an established system. They don't even really want her there. They were expecting someone else, and she shows up. She doesn't really speak the language. She's obviously never lived in another country. She hasn't done any of that. So she's walking into a system that's already in place. It's pretty obvious that she's going to need to assimilate in order to help them to see that she's not a threat. In order for Emily to not come off as a threat to her new coworkers in this system that's already in place, she's going to need to assimilate a little bit more to their style and to their processes and system than having them, accept her with open arms like she maybe had expected. And so now I really think that in order for her to show them that she's serious about working with them and working in their culture, she's going to need to speak the language and learn the language. And once she does that, I think that it's possible that she won't come across as such a threat or as such a foreigner. Okay, so I love that she's keeping kind of this ongoing text thread with her boyfriend, letting him know that she misses him throughout the day. He's responsive, just letting him know that he's on her mind. It's important in a long distance relationship to make sure that you're keeping the lines of communication open, however small, even if it's a little text here or there, even if it's just a little emoji here or there, or a picture.
I don't know what it is to be happy.
Well, maybe that's a little arrogant.
You came to Paris and you don't speak French. That is arrogant.
He's not wrong. Okay, so 7 o'clock our time, 3 o'clock in the morning Paris time, and her boyfriend is looking for some cyber sex. I love that the first thing she says is, you better not be recording this. Because in order to be vulnerable, and especially in that way, the threat of being recorded and possibly having it reproduced or distributed is totally not sexy. And it's not healthy. It's not healthy to have that threat looming there. So she obviously trusts him. That's very important with any sort of sexual activity, but certainly when you're taking it digital. Okay, so we're now on season 1, episode 2 of Emily in Paris. A great technique when you're communicating with somebody that you're at odds with, or who might be kind of your antagonist, is to be vulnerable and say something about yourself that isn't great. So you're sharing a flaw, you're sharing a weakness. When people do that, they tend to be endearing to the other person, and it invites the other person to possibly share that they aren't perfect either. So I love that she tells her new boss that she is missing so many things that her boss has, but then she also follows it up with, but these are the things that I do have that can add value. Okay, so now we're getting into the mistress culture. Definitely not something that is as widely accepted in the US as it is in France. Can't wait to see how that works out. That's very intriguing. I guess it puts her in a position of knowing something she probably shouldn't. And when you start to have all of this information circulating around an office space, there does seem to be a sense of like, okay, I'm gonna bank that because I might need that information later. It does kind of make for a toxic workspace if you know everybody's business like that and there aren't boundaries. We'll see what happens. So her friend Mindy is describing to Emily how kind of the mistress culture works in France. A lot of it comes from the idea that people have more sexual needs than can be completely handled and satiated by one partner, and that women will have lovers, men will have lovers, and that they all might know each other. And she said it's tolerated more so than accepted, which is, you know, very different than in the American culture with monogamy and being monogamish, and how those things are still very, very taboo to have a mistress, and we call them affairs and cheating, whereas in France it's a little bit different. A really healthy part of relationships are, of course, friendships, and I love that Emily is starting to reach out and create, you know, not just familiar faces, but she's actually engaging with like the woman from the boulangerie and with Mindy, and she's now has some allies at work. So she's setting things up for success. Okay, so now we have Doug doing to Emily what Emily did to Doug first episode. He is informing her he's not going to Paris. Not just to visit her, but like ever. And it was last minute, like he was supposed to be at the airport already. She was expecting him in however many hours. And he's like, oh, I've decided not to go. That's a red flag. If you are the kind of person who just informs your partner about something that definitely affects them, instead of discussing it or even sharing your thoughts or your concerns, you just flat out say this is how it is. That's not best practices when it comes to communicating in a relationship that you want to flourish, that you want to last. That conversation about him not going to Paris to visit her obviously took a turn for the worse, because he is either pretending he can't hear her or he really can't, and she feels like that's a symbol of what's going on between them right now, which is they're not on the same page. He's not hearing her, she's not hearing him. And yeah, we could blame it on the, you know, connection on the phone, but the truth is I think their connection is being lost as well. So the issue with having a breakup of this magnitude happen long distance, like literally long distance over the phone, is that there isn't a sense of closure. He's still trying to figure out whether or not she can hear him, like literally hear him. Is he thinking that they're not even broken up? Like that could be part of this. He may not even understand what's actually happening because he may not actually hear her. And here she goes feeling like this is the end of their relationship. Emily has now been put in charge of a campaign for Vagajune. It's a suppository for lubrication. And actually, you can find those in Walgreens, not Vagajune, but it helps because typically what happens with lubricant is that you put it topically or you can put it on whatever you're going to be penetrated by. But with a suppository, you can put it inside of le vagin, which is French for vagina, and the warmth of your body melts the outside of the capsule, the suppository, and it allows for kind of a more natural feeling lubrication. It's actually something that your partner would never even realize you had inside of you if you didn't want to share that information. This is very important for women who are going through menopause who may or may not experience vaginal dryness due to the hormonal changes that are going through their body. So there are lots of options for lubricants when it comes to vaginal dryness. This is season 1, episode 3 of Netflix's Emily in Paris.
J'aime le café.
J'aime le café.
J'aime le thé.
J'aime le thé.
J'aime le sport.
J'aime le sport.
J'aime les bottines.
J'aime les bottines.
J'aime la danse.
J'aime la danse.
Et j'aime Paris.
Et j'aime Paris.
I am très excitée to be here.
Excité? Really?
Excité does not mean excited. It means horny.
Oh, well, not that then.
The client says that desire is not a lack of respect. Actually, it's a form of respect. So when somebody desires you sexually, most of the time we talk about it in terms of objectification. Like they want something from you. But if you're listening to his quotation, he's saying that it's a form of respect. I wonder if that means that to desire somebody is to hold them in higher regard. And if you hold somebody in high regard, then you respect them for something. And in this case, it's the ability to make you want them. Interesting. Food for thought. The flirtation with Antoine has now upgraded to full-on lingerie proposal. I don't know. It sounds messy. Okay, so my girl Emily just accepted help from a stranger. Then she accepted an invitation to an event. That's how you make friends. Now, obviously things are different because we're in a pandemic right now, but in general, when you're trying to make friendships, accepting help, being open, being kind, being gracious, being grateful, all of that is really, really important. And saying yes to invitations where you'll possibly meet more strangers, and some of those will become friends and some may not. But she's got a good attitude, so I bet you a lot of them will become friends. I love it. Emily has just fallen bass-ackwards into an affair with she didn't even mean to. So that way, us Americans can think, okay, well, she didn't do it on purpose because we're pretty puritanical like that. This is a good twist. Okay, this is Netflix's Emily in Paris, season 1, episode 4.
So,
There's another vocabulary lesson. Condom in French is le préservatif. Okay, so yes, I'm a sex therapist. Yes, I hear all sorts of stuff. But this is a new one for me. The Eiffel Tower sex position. I'm just going to include a picture because this is hilarious. He describes it as a woman on all fours and then two guys, and then they make clap, aka high five, to make the tower. And without the high five, it's the London Bridge. Okay, so in episode 5, Emily is continuing to do amazing things with her job, but she's also managing to continue to try to stay on the same team as her boss, which is super important. She hasn't given up hope that she will win her over. Now, maybe they won't be friends, but at least they'll be friendly. And I think through doing her job and being respectful and continuing to have the same goals, she is strengthening her bond with Sylvie. This is Netflix's Emily in Paris, Season 1, Episode 6. Poor Emily is stuck listening to the thunderous sexcapades of Gabrielle and Camille. They're yelling all sorts of stuff, but especially towards the end, the peak, they're yelling "oui," yes, in French. So, did y'all know that an orgasm is called le petit mort, and that is the little death? I think it's super poetic. Okay, I just watched the scene where they show Mindy on Chinese Idol, and she choked while singing. Not really, but figuratively. And it totally reminded me of something I hadn't thought of in a long time. I used to do a lot of singing in high school and in middle school. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. And one time, my boyfriend at the time, this was in high school, came to watch one of my recitals. And it's all coming back to me now, a la Celine Dion. And I was singing Silver Bells. And I was doing fine. I was like, okay, I'm excited, but I was very nervous. And I've sung in front of this theater for I don't know how many years now. I saw him looking at me in the crowd, and I started shaking. I was like, silver bells, silver bells. I totally choked. It was mortifying. And it was really sweet because then he stood up, and as I was eking back, he stood up and he started clapping, and then everybody started clapping because they thought that was sweet and because they'd never seen me do something like that before, and hopefully never again. Emily just got laid. So after that very not romantic phrasing, I think I just heard one of the most romantic quotations. I don't know if it's romantic, but it was sexy. She was, walking him outside, and she said, "Are you sure you don't want to use my shower?" Because they stayed over at her place, and he said, "I don't want to wash you off just yet." I mean, whew! That's hot, right? Ooh, here comes Camille. She's a witness to the one-night stand.
Who is he? A professor I met last night. I've never done anything like that. I mean, for all I know, he could have been a murderer.
I thought I heard a couple of petits morts, so...
A couple of what?
Little death. It means an orgasm. And it sounds like he died at least twice last night.
Oh my god, I'm pretty mortified. Oh, little deaths? Why do you call it that? It sounds so morbid.
No, it's not. It's like, it's so intense that you die and then you're reborn as a new person.
That's cool. So much better than orgasm. Emily and Thomas have just run into Camille and Gabrielle. And Gabrielle mentioned that he has heard Thomas. Not heard of, heard, if you know what I mean. How awkward is that when someone's heard you having sex? And the moral of episode 6 is, the sex could be amazing, but if you can't have a conversation, you're not going to want to spend time together outside of the bedroom. Au revoir, Thomas. This is Netflix's Emily in Paris, Season 1, Episode 7. So the starlet, I think her name is Brooklyn or something, said that she likes to masturbate after a long flight. It is probably because she has jet lag and wants to fall asleep. For some people, they say after they masturbate and have an orgasm, they get very sleepy, and it can help with that because it releases so much tension. For other people, they get wired. I don't know which one she needs it for, but this is another reason why a lot of men tend to masturbate right before they go to sleep. It's to help them fall asleep, but also it helps them fall asleep for a longer amount of time and more deeply. So I don't know exactly what the parameters are of Antoine and Sylvie's arrangement, but apparently Sylvie is butthurt because Antoine is now taking his wife on the trip that he had promised to take Sylvie on. It was his assistant's fault. She sent the wrong email. It's already getting complicated. Another profound quotation. Sylvie just said she doesn't want 100% of anyone, nor does she want anyone to have 100% of her. Deep thoughts, deep thoughts. On a side note, if anybody knows what this shade of red is, I want it. Okay, don't do that, Gabrielle. You were offering more than just sharing a crepe and a sunset in Montmartre, and we all know that. Don't try to gaslight her. She knows that she wants 100%, and you can't give it to her as long as you're with Camille. But we all like Camille, so you're probably not going to leave her. I really like that Emily let him know that her expectations are to have all of him and that she's not willing to share him with somebody else. Then it's up to him whether or not he wants to become available or not. This is Netflix's Emily in Paris, Season 1, Episode 8, and I need some dessert. Okay, I'm armed with red velvet cake. Fun fact about me, I love ice cold skim milk.
I've now kissed him twice. First one doesn't count. Well, the second one more than made up for it.
I can drink it more than water.
It's not that easy.
It's kind of weird,
Every
but
time we're in the same room,
it's my thing.
it's all we can think of. Or anywhere that's Asian. Although if she's mad enough, a chopstick can't puncture skin. Don't ask how I know that. Can we hang this weekend? Oh, shit.
Nope. Emily has a hickey. It looks like she was mauled. Does anybody have or give hickeys anymore? I'm dying of secondhand embarrassment. It's an honest mistake, right? So somebody says they're right out of college. In the US, they're at least 20, 21, maybe 22. College is high school in France. He's 17. No. Oh, gross. Y'all, this show just does not disappoint. The mom finds out that Emily has had sex with her 17-year-old son, and she's not going to ream her for it, but she wants to know if he was a good lover because she worries about her children. I'm now on Emily in Paris, Season 1, Episode 9. Well, now I want to know, does Sylvie have her nipples pierced or not? Netflix's Emily in Paris, Season 1, Finale, Let's Do This. Recurring theme here, all these relationships. Now we've got Gabrielle letting Camille know that he has made the decision to buy a restaurant in Normandy, one that he can afford in his hometown, but he didn't discuss it with her. He didn't even share that he was thinking about doing it. He said it came very quickly, that it all happened very quickly. Is it so quick that you can't be like, oh my gosh, there's a restaurant in Normandy? That's crazy, right? Come on, people. So Gabrielle and Emily have this one perfect thing the night before he leaves for Normandy. And I guess I just wonder, like, what's harder to deal with? Like, if they hadn't slept together, or now that they have, but then being separated. Oh my gosh, the like layers. Not just their clothes, because they wear a lot of layers. Like Gabriel had like 4 shirts on. Oh my gosh, I forgot about Camille. And something with the wife. Oh yeah, because Antoine's wife. Oh my gosh. Okay, y'all, I loved it. I love Paris, fashion, totally not anything I could or would ever wear. I love the music. And the relationships are obviously super complex, but not like so complex that you leave like bummed, you know? I stan Lily Collins. Amazing. She did so well. She's so likable. All the characters are likable in their own way. I really, really enjoyed it. I hope you did too. Oh gosh, when does season 2 come out now? Okay, c'est si bon. Au revoir.